Good afternoon. Welcome to the May 17th policy session of the Phoenix City Council. We'll call the meeting to order. Councilwoman Ansari, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, republic for which it stands.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you so much for joining us today. Pleased to welcome everyone, and a special welcome to the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative at Arizona State University for 2 weeks through a partnership with the U.S. Department of State. And thank you to Hector Delaya for your leadership in bringing this great group. We hope it is a good experience at our City Council meeting. Among the things we will discuss today is the city budget. Pleased to be with you here today. We will begin with updates from council members and information requests. Councilwoman Guardado.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to start by thanking the Cartwright Elementary School District and their superintendent, Aguilar Lawlor, as well as Trees Matters and Amy Esposito for a great community tree planting event last week at Borman Elementary on 55th Avenue in Osborne. Thanks to the generosity of the Nature Conservancy, we were able to plant 75 trees that will bring shade to our students as they walk to school. I also wanted to thank Dr. Singh and her students at the Gifted and Talented Academy at Maryville High School for hosting me and my team last week. We met with some incredible students and teachers and talked about opportunities for community engagement in our neighborhoods. We are excited to work with the over 100 students that signed up to get involved with us this summer. And lastly, last week, my staff joined the District 4 team from Vice Mayor Pastor's office to meet with super parents, a lot of incredible parents from the Alhambra Elementary School District. I am so thankful for Superintendent Ceci Maes' leadership and assistance in connecting parents with our offices so we can work together to improve neighborhoods for all of our children. And finally, I want to invite everyone out this year's Southwest Human Development Readathon. We will be at Bookman's Bookstore on 19th Avenue and Northern this Saturday at 11 a.m. to get our kids excited about the importance of reading over the summer break. And I also want to thank our United Phoenix Firefighters, Local 493, that will be joining us for that event as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any addition? Councilwoman Ansari.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start with this past weekend, which was a busy one. First, we helped open the Downtown Farmers Market. They are now at 5th Street and McKinley and are open every Saturday from 7:30 to 11:30 a.m. this summer. This was a very big move for them, given that they've been by the Phoenix Public Market Cafe for over 17 years. A huge thank you to CED for their help in securing a new lot and looking at additional shade support. I'm looking forward to future discussions surrounding a permanent location, hopefully back in District 7. We then tabled at the first ever Levine Youth Leadership Summit, where over 70 partner organizations offered resources, education and job opportunities, and more. Thank you so much to the Levine Community Action Committee for organizing this event. And finally, Saturday, my office and I joined thousands of residents at the Bands Off Our Bodies rally outside the Arizona Capitol building, organized by Planned Parenthood Arizona in response to the leaked Supreme Court decision that would strike down Roe v. Wade. This rally made clear that Arizonans are fired up and angry at this attack on our freedoms and are ready to fight to protect access to safe, affordable, and legal abortion. I hope that we as a city will do anything within our power to mitigate the negative effects that this potential ruling will have on abortion providers and Phoenicians who are seeking critical health care. This same weekend, we saw 105-degree days. Over the last few months, my office and I have been meeting regularly with smaller, community-led volunteer groups who do great work to support our unsheltered residents around the Human Services campus and across the city. Organizations like AZ Hugs and Feed Phoenix, who constantly have to raise money to fund their ongoing volunteer work. This is why I asked our city manager, Jeff Barton, and Dr. Hongela for more funds to give direct support to these groups who are already doing the work on the ground. So I want to give a huge thanks to both of you for making this happen and leveraging an additional $600,000 to purchase critical items like cooling towels, water bottles, canopies, indoor and outdoor fans, thermal backpacks, and more. At the end of this month, we'll start offering these to local organizations. And on that note, the city needs volunteers. I know we have young people here today. So this weekend, We're Cool volunteers were at Echo Canyon and Piestewa Peak trails where we saw a heat-related incident. If you want to help save lives this summer, please consider becoming a Cool Caller or We're Cool volunteer. My office will be working on a June training and outreach event in hopes to drive volunteer numbers up for this critical program. In the meantime, please visit Phoenix.gov/heat to get involved in this life-saving work. Small business assistance has also been a top priority for us in recent weeks. I was able to join our light rail administrator, Marcus Coleman, to canvass businesses along the South Central light rail construction site to encourage them to apply again this year for financial assistance, especially now that we've made the application process much easier. We met with staple businesses such as Sam's Barbershop, Paint Supplies and Surplus, and Corral Cleaners, who have been around for decades, and we want to make sure we keep them here. And businesses can find out if they qualify for up to $9,000 in grant money by visiting prestamosloans.org/Valley Metro. And finally, since we're about to discuss the budget today, I'm excited to see a win from last year's budget come to life. The master plan for the 71st Ave and Meadows Loop Park is finally complete, and it looks amazing. The park will include a skate plaza, a ninja obstacle course, a butterfly garden, and so much more. So huge thanks to Cynthia and the parks team for ensuring that all of this happened very quickly, and to the residents who volunteered their time to make it happen. I'm very excited to celebrate with the Levine community soon. Thank you.
Any additional updates? In a fun note, fans of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure might note that Councilwoman Ann O'Brien today announced a Metro Center screening of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure before demolition. So for fans of Phoenix cinema history, that is one to look forward to, and thank you to Councilwoman O'Brien. We have with us Mario Barajas to provide interpretation services. Mario, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. As you've already mentioned, my name is Mario Barajas, and with my colleague Carmen Cota, we're going to be serving as Spanish interpreters for today. I'll now take this moment to introduce myself, or ourselves, to our Spanish-speaking audience. Hola, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Mario Barajas y junto con mi colega Carmen Cota vamos a estar sirviéndoles como intérpretes a los de habla hispana. Deseamos pedirles de antemano, si es que van a estar dando un comentario público, favor de hablar despacio, con claridad y evite tener distracciones de fondo. Finalmente, pause después de cada una o dos oraciones para que les podamos interpretar lo que esté diciendo de la manera más completa posible. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mario. I'll next turn to our city attorney to explain the role of public comment in council meetings.
Thank you, Mayor. For items on today's agenda for discussion, members of the public may speak for up to 2 minutes to comment on the item. Comments must be related to the agenda item. The City Council and staff cannot discuss or comment on matters related to pending litigation, investigations, or claims. The City Code requires speakers to present their comments in a respectful and courteous manner. Profane language, threats, or personal attacks on members of the public, council members, or staff are not allowed. A person who violates these rules will lose their opportunity to continue to speak.
Thank you so much. Now we will turn to our main agenda item today, the City Council budget decision on the 2022-23 budget. I will turn it over to our team, led by Jeff Barton.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you so much. I want to quickly and briefly thank you again for your leadership and your direction. Over the last years, we've crafted this budget. We wouldn't be here without your guidance and your leadership. And again, I want to emphasize that Phoenix finds itself in rare space and rare air. Many of our cities that are our peers have found themselves over the last 2 years struggling to keep programs whole, struggling to keep their employees employed, and we have not had that issue because of your stewardship, your leadership, and your guidance. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to Amber, who's got exciting news to present to you, our upcoming 22-23 budget.
Thank you, Jeff. Mayor, Council, members of the public, I'm very happy to be here today to present and request action on the 22-23 proposed budget. So the city manager's proposed budget that was presented on May 3rd, there have been no changes to that budget. To just briefly recap our general fund status, our total resources for next fiscal year are $1,777,000,000, less our estimated expenditures of $1,701,000,000. We arrive at that general fund surplus of $76 million. On May 3rd, it was proposed $3 million in changes to what was presented in the trial budget. These represent increases for city council and community additions. So from that $76 million surplus, it was proposed to increase supplemental additions from $21 million to $24 million, and to ensure the budget remains balanced, to reduce the set-asides from $55 million to $52 million. It is proposed those set-asides are dedicated $30 million for employee compensation increases. We know we have our labor negotiations process starting again in December with our employee groups. We also know we have a classification and compensation study underway. We want to make sure we have resources in the budget to provide for increased labor costs. As well, $22 million could be used for additional council and community priorities, or if needed, to provide budget flexibility if we were to see some type of downturn in the economy or a recession or any type of negative impact to our revenue. We could use those set-asides to balance the budget so we wouldn't see negative impacts to programs and services for the community. I do want to mention any use of set-asides would come back to the City Council for approval before any implementation of spending initiatives. So just to review our community feedback and outreach that we did with our residents, through those 11 virtual budget hearings that were held during the month of April, we also updated the Fund Phoenix tool and received input through email and voicemail directly to the Budget and Research Department. Overall, what we heard from residents is strong support for what was proposed in the budget. This includes in the areas of affordable housing, arts, climate and sustainability initiatives, additional funding for economic development efforts, grants for historic preservation, funding to address homelessness, funding for libraries and parks, as well as for public safety and roadway safety initiatives, to do street maintenance, as well as for the additions that are in the budget for transit services. In total, we received 662 comments from about 388 residents. So what was proposed in terms of the $3 million in changes to the proposed additions was additional arts grant funding, an increase of $200,000. This would bring the amount that was in the trial budget from $75,000 to $275,000. Also, an increase, one-time cost of $21,000 was proposed to do improvements to the Desert Foothills Park. This would convert the tennis courts to dual purpose, accommodating pickleball. Also, what was proposed is $250,000 to do an electric vehicle study. This is as a result of recommendations from the Electrical Vehicle Ad Hoc Group. This funding would provide for a consultant to evaluate the most effective way to implement, for example, electric vehicle infrastructure. Also, $750,000 for the Elevate Education Workforce Program. This funding, the city would work with a nonprofit to get business industry connected to high school students to ensure after graduation they have a path to the workforce. $627,000 to convert the pilot gated alley program to an ongoing general funded program. This funding would include one position in our neighborhood services department, as well as up to 45 alley segments per year. $300,000 increase from what was proposed in the trial budget for the Historic Preservation Threatened Grants or Buildings Grant Program. This would bring the ongoing amount in the general fund to $500,000. Also, $600,000 increase for roadway safety projects. This would bring the annual amount in the general fund for the Streets Department to $1.8 million. This funding would be used towards projects to achieve the goals of the Roadway Safety Action Plan. And then finally, $229,000 proposed for the South Mountain Environmental Education Center. This center is located at the base of South Mountain Park. It's currently closed. This would provide funding to reopen it with 2.5 staff members, 4 days per week. One of those staff would also work part-time at the Pueblo Grande Museum. It's also approaching its 100-year anniversary, so I wanted to mention that. So in total, changes to the trial budget in the general fund equal $3 million. So with the $3 million in changes, this brings our general fund proposed additions to $24 million. I want to mention the City Council report available on Phoenix.gov on the website provides a lot of detailed information about the supplementals. To go over high level, however, for our affordable housing category, just $1.6 million for climate and sustainability. $1.5 million. $1.6 million for climate and sustainability. $2.4 million for economic development, planning and innovation. For historic preservation and arts grants, $800,000. $3 million is proposed to address homelessness for the refugee immigrant support, as well as to make the Fast Track Cities initiative ongoing. $3 million for parks and recreation and library program additions. $6.9 million for public safety and criminal justice. $1.2 million for roadway safety projects. And then $3.6 million for general government additions. This would be for departments such as information technology, budget and research, finance, human resources, and public works. In total, general fund proposed additions are $24 million. For our non-general fund proposed additions, these have not changed since the trial budget that was presented on March 29th. This totals $4.9 million. High level to go over these for our enterprise funded departments, including additional resources for aviation, for our solid waste division of our public works department, for the water department, for our special revenue funds, additional resources for development services, for neighborhood services, parks and recreation, as well as public transit. So moving forward to legally adopt the 22-23 budget, we will be coming back with tentative budget adoption on June 1st, final budget adoption on June 15th, and then property tax adoption on July 1st. And with that, staff would like to formally recommend City Council approval of the 22-23 city budget.
Thank you, Amber, and thank you to your team for your hard work. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion? And then we do have 6 members of the public to comment.
I do have a motion to move item 1. Am I doing item?
Second.
Yeah, okay.
We have a motion to approve item 1 and a second. We have 6 members of the public here to provide comments. We will begin with those who are online. So we'll begin with Cindy and then Jimmy.
Thank you, Mayor Gallego and mayors of the City Council for this opportunity to speak to you. For the record, I'm Cindy Gahn, Senior Director of Phoenix Community Alliance, and on behalf of our Board of Directors, Public Affairs Committee, and our full membership, we convey our strong support for the following budget items that their funding as well, or the addition of positions in each of the associated departments in the proposed 2022-23 city manager's budget. Affordable housing, homelessness, climate and sustainability is related to the multimodal connectivity committee, for example, the Cool Pavement program. Aviation, public transportation, street transportation, economic development, planning and innovation, planning and development, historic preservation and arts, parks and recreation. And in particular, I just like to highlight the much needed increase in roadway safety money. You've heard me speak on this before, but it's really something that's near and dear to our hearts at PCA and DPI, as one of our own, Hans Hughes, lost his life in a car collision. So through PCA's advocacy committees, our members work to create a stronger downtown for Greater Phoenix, and we thank you for your continued work in this matter. We're grateful to City Manager Barton for putting together such a wonderful budget, and we're grateful for your public service to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll next go to Jimmy, followed by Samara.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the entire City Council, but especially to Councilwoman Stark, Councilwoman Pastor, and Sergio Gomez, and the entire Fast Track Cities Initiative family. My name is Jimmy Thomason. I'm the Executive Director at Aunt Rita's Foundation, Ending the HIV Epidemic. Thank you for entrusting Aunt Rita's Foundation to assist with distribution of this funding by directing microgrants to organizations that are most directly aware of the unique needs of Phoenicians. A common theme around our distribution was PrEP and PEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis and post-exposure prophylaxis. This is medication that can be taken regularly for a 99.6% protection from contracting HIV, and the same medication can be used within 72 hours of exposure to HIV to stop you from being infected. And we now have every tool in our toolbox to bring our HIV incidence rate to 0. To do that, though, we need financial support for our boots on the ground organizations to increase awareness, action, and compassion. To give a few examples of what we're doing with this funding, I'd just like to point out CAN Community Health is purchasing tablets for mobile testing units. We have 3 needle exchanges that are using this funding for heat relief supplies, water, and food for attendees. We're also providing grocery store gift cards to those who are willing to get tested. And I'd love to specifically point out Care Directions, which currently has a PrEP and PEP hotline, which runs 5 days a week. With this funding, they were able to expand to 7 days a week. And that is so important, especially with PrEP. with PEP, because they do need to get on that medication within 72 hours. So we also have 1 in 10, which is able to provide 10 young people with attendance to camp outdoors. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Samara is next, followed by Dr. Poor.
Samara, are you on the line?
Oh, wonderful. We will go to Dr. Poor and then Lisa Glow in person.
Hello, everyone. Let me get my notes here. Phoenix City Council, Mayor Kate Gallego. My name is Carol Poor, and I support this proposed budget. Thank you so much for welcoming community input and the great input process that we have as a city. And thank you for supporting arts and culture in our great city. Our community arts grant budget supports the work of our local artists and arts community and their contributions to our city. And the public art maintenance budget provides the care for our spectacular public art. More than 200 outdoor pieces of community art, as well as more than 1,000 pieces of indoor portable art. And by the way, I serve as the past board chair, immediate past chair of Friends of Phoenix Public Art, which is a nonprofit supporting the city's art program. Arts and culture, as you well know, in our city creates a unique identity as a city filled with community pride and the joy of creativity, as well as serving an important economic development strategy. Our airport and our convention center, they're just among the most beautiful in the world, for example, and this creates a lasting impression of our great city and our diverse, inclusive community. So again, just a heartfelt thanks on behalf of myself and Friends of Phoenix Public Art. Thank you for your steadfast support of arts and culture, making Phoenix a beautiful, creative, and joyful city. Thank you again.
Thank you. We will go to Lisa.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. First, I want to thank you for your tremendous leadership over the last several years to support the homeless and to bring new housing to help deter the growing homeless crisis. So I also want to acknowledge the tremendous city staff members, Gina Montez, Scott Hall, Matt Utero, and many others for their efforts. I'm standing here in support of the budget and for funding for affordable housing and homelessness, and also for the $22 million in set-asides, and asking for your consideration in the budget to help put funding towards unfunded capital for shelters and programs to help the homeless, and also to set aside operating dollars. We're scaling up a lot right now, and we're going to need ongoing support and operating dollars for those programs. CAS is now able to take 600 people in our adult shelter downtown. We got those beds in with the support of you and city staff, so we're going to need ongoing operating dollars, so we're asking for your consideration for that. As you know, there's also another 100 beds open with the new Respiro shelter on the campus and also the new 200-bed summer shelter. So in the last couple of months, an additional 430 beds have opened just in time for summer, and then there'll be more coming online as well. The senior facility that will open next year, thanks to Councilwoman Guardado, that's another 170 emergency shelter beds. And then CAS was just awarded a contract from Access along with Copa Health to open a 70-bed SMI homeless shelter on the Arizona State Hospital grounds. So I wanted you to be aware of that. So setting aside operating dollars is going to be really critical in the coming years. And so we speak in support of this budget and also for these additional items in the $22 million set-asides. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public testimony. Appreciate everyone who's participated in this process. It's a budget that addresses many different needs. Combined with the American Rescue Plan dollars, this budget shows that affordable housing and homelessness is a huge priority for each and every member of the Phoenix City Council, and we are making unprecedented investments, whether it be in our youth or at Phoenix Starfish Place in helping victims of human trafficking. Appreciate the testimony on Fast Track Cities and the councilwomen who are leading our initiative there. It was great to hear from Jimmy and to think about the lives we are saving with this investment. We lost recently one of our leaders of that initiative, Glenn Spencer, and he is definitely on my mind today as we make that a permanent part of our budget. I am also glad we're investing in sustainability, in community and economic development, including expanding our efforts in workforce and our international trade program, although not quite to the level we had hoped before COVID. We're moving forward on our climate action plan, and it is so nice to see the South Mountain Environmental Education Center reopening. That was a cut that we made in the 2008 recession, and it is good that we are moving forward with bringing that back just as we approach that centennial. I also want to recognize that the immigrant and refugee support investments in this budget, as well as some of the long-term investments that we haven't focused on today, because they're not part of the general fund, but in the water situation is very much a priority in this budget as we invest in our water department and preparing for the drought situation in which we are in. I will now turn to my council colleagues for their comments and questions. Vice Mayor.
I have a question regarding the South Mountain Environmental Education Center. I'm visually looking at it and going up Central. It's down at the base of the mountain. Am I correct that that's the facility we're speaking of?
Yes, Vice Mayor. We have Inger Erickson, our Deputy City Manager, who will be answering your question.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, it's as you come in to the facility, you turn the corner and it's right up on the hill. It had an environmental center that had the education portion, but also had a place where you could have banquets and events.
Correct. That's the area, the space we're speaking of.
That's correct.
Because when I remember, if I remember correctly, when I sat on the Parks Committee, we had sent out an RFP, I believe, for a nonprofit. I want to say the zoo did occupied that space.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the council, we actually had two operators. There was an operator that first was in for about a year and was not successful, and then the Phoenix Zoo took it over, and then it just financially didn't work out for them, and so it's been sitting empty for about a year and a half.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can, well, obviously with the additional dollars, we can activate it. That space, conference space, at one point was state-of-the-art. I'm not sure where it's at this point, but people did a lot of conferences and trainings. I want to say I even went for a city training. I can't remember why I was there, but I was there. And so it's exciting to hear. My other question is, because it's at the base of the mountain, this weekend I went cruising on Sunday, and we wanted to cruise up to South Mountain and go up to the top, and we weren't able to do that. Cruising in Phoenix, period, is part of our culture, but specifically in South Phoenix area. So I know it's not here, but in the future, I would like to know when that's going to be opened up so that we could go cruising and be able to look at the Lookout Mountain and be able to see Phoenix.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, the good news is it's only the fourth Sunday of every month that's closed because it's called Silent Sunday. But the good news is every other Sunday it is open. It's just
good
that
to know
Sunday.
Because now I can tell all my cruisers.
Thank you. Councilwoman Stark.
Thank you. I just want to say thanks again to our great staff for all the hard work, and especially to Jeff, Lori, and Amber. You really did listen to the public, and you listened to council, and I think we have a very well-rounded budget. I really do appreciate all the hard work you guys do. I know it is rigorous going through all the numbers, so kudos to you, and I am going to support the budget. Thank you.
Councilwoman Ansari.
Thank you, Mayor. I will echo the sentiment from Councilwoman Stark. I think this is a very well done and forward-looking budget, and each of the additions that are proposed are clearly very, very well thought out and directly, in some cases, a result of input from the community. I also think that the fact that we've set aside funds for future initiatives and for employee compensation makes a lot of sense, and we've seen in the past few years how crises can come out of nowhere. I think right now, top of mind for parents is infant formula shortage, and it's exact crises like these that I think Phoenix needs to be prepared for so that we can potentially support and help our families through hardships like this. I also hope that once we have some of the new positions hired, like the public health advisor, the diversity, equity, and inclusion director, they may have some recommendations about how best to use some of those funds, and I would be very supportive of using any additional funds that we're able to support ongoing housing and homelessness solutions. So I do want to note some specific positions I look forward to hiring and have a few questions about. So in terms of the 9 added staff positions to implement recommendations from the Strategies to Address Homelessness Plan, I was wondering, Amber, Jeff, or if someone else needs to come down, how those positions will be distributed throughout the city.
Councilwoman Ansari, Mayor, members of the council, Deputy City Manager Gina Montes is coming to the floor. What I will say before she begins responding is we looked at our homeless operation a few months back, and one of the things that we noticed is just it wasn't very focused. We had that function kind of lost within Human Services, and they've got their hands full with a variety of other things. And so what we all worked on was trying to build the organizational structure that we think is necessary to make that function work and work well, more efficiently. And so under the proposal, those positions will sit within the city manager's structure, and they will be directed by someone within the manager's office. And Gina, I don't know if you'd like to add anything to that.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, Mayor, Councilwoman Ansari. The positions that are being created to support is homelessness and all of our goals that the task force has reinforced and kind of prioritized for us, primarily will be out of this new function that our city manager mentioned we're pulling into the city manager's office. So we'll have a position assistant to the city manager that will oversee this function. And many of them, they'll be divided up into the contract management, accountability side, so ensuring that the funding that we're putting in, that we're actively managing those contracts, including the performance under all those providers, and that we're communicating our priorities on a regular basis. It will include community-focused activities, so we'll have a group of employees that as we move into the different areas that are really experiencing a lot of issues, and these are throughout the city in many different areas, it will enable us to interact more closely and directly with the businesses and community groups and support what Neighborhood Services is providing through their specialists, but also specifically related to how we address homelessness. And so having that direct contact and having that capacity to be able to work with the community in that way. Additionally, the data. We are having a position that will specifically be focused on the data analysis, our evidence-based practices, being able to assist in applying for grants and seeking additional funding sources as well. So that's kind of a summary of those positions that will be part of the function. In addition, there will be a few positions added under Phoenix Cares as the demand has increased, our calls have increased. And so we need additional staff to be able to respond to those calls and that have the specialized knowledge in order to answer questions and to have that dialogue. So in addition to kind of what our system-generated responses are that kind of go out automatically, that we will have more capacity to address those very specialized issues that come through Phoenix Cares.
Got it. Thank you. So is that, should I understand that to mean, like, I know you and I have talked about the upticks and encampments in the Levine area, for example, and that's certainly not the only place. Will these staff members within Phoenix Cares have specialty expertise in certain regions of the city?
So that would be part of the homelessness function, that we would be able to divide up into those specific areas. So, for example, in the Levine area, we've pulled together a group of staff. We've started right now. We can't wait for the positions to come on, and we've done that in different areas. And so they will have specialized knowledge definitely on those areas, and we'll be able to divide up geographically as well. Right now, we're really responding as quickly as we can, as comprehensively as we can, but we do lack the capacity to really specialize as much as we need to in those specific areas, because each part of the community has a different need, and there are different nuances to what is happening based on the conditions and the availability of services and that sort of thing. So.
Okay, great. That's helpful. And then similarly on the blight reduction pilot program, have specific boundaries been chosen for that, or will council have a say on the boundaries there?
That is Spencer.
Yeah, Councilwoman Ansari, I'll have Spencer Self, Neighborhood Services Director, who is remote in City Hall, 12 West.
Mayor, Councilwoman, absolutely. The pilot private property cleanup program that we are looking to implement, at this time we are not planning to have that be geographic specific. So for specific areas, it will be a citywide program.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's really, really helpful. Thank you so much. I think my final point on this item is just that I hope that we continue to prioritize this. I think with the campus being in District 7, I hear about this issue day in and day out. We know there's over 1,000 people out there, and I'm obviously very relieved to hear the numbers that Lisa brought up, about 430 new beds in the past couple of months, but I think it's really important that we, with these new 9 positions, I hope we're actually able to show progress, and with the additional beds, be able to say we have actually helped a concrete number of people get into housing and get back to better times there. So I hope that this will continue to be a priority, and I will continue to push for it. Otherwise, I think I also wanted to flag just that I think the creative solutions that we are implementing in the police department, especially as we face staffing shortages and continue to struggle with recruitment. I know the civilian investigator positions have had significant number of interest, and it's great that we're using the vacant sworn officer funding to hire more staff to our body camera unit. Critical that we clear our backlogs there, and just want to emphasize that I think the civilianization of these positions is a good move and positive step for our department. All in all, again, very strong budget. I'm very supportive. And also to any residents who might be listening today, I think we received numbers of the comments, and for this year we had pickleball court improvements in Ahwatukee as the highest number of comments, and those residents got what they asked for. Last year it was Parks and Levine and a circulator bus in Estrella, which were also granted. So next year, please rally your neighborhoods and call in, comment, and present us with tangible improvements in your neighborhoods, whether that's extended bus routes, new parks, or a cool corridor. It really does work, and it's really helpful to get that feedback from the community. So thank you, and I look forward to supporting this budget.
Thank you, Councilwoman Ansari. Any Councilman Waring?
Thank you, Mayor. So I don't think Gina needs to come back up, but I was happy to hear there's at least some focus on neighborhoods. Gina and Spencer get sick of hearing from me. It seems like I call them every day, and it's a good thing personality-wise. It's not so great because there are issues every day that frankly, through no fault of yours, that need to be addressed. When I see things like I saw the other day, was someone basically camped out at a bus shelter up at Bell and Tatum, and I see somebody standing out in the sun who clearly wants to get on the bus but doesn't feel comfortable going into the bus shelter or bus stop, I guess you'd say. That's not a good situation. That person who's standing out in the sun who just wants to use a city service, that person deserves respect too, and we should be expending at least as much on these neighborhoods that are being disproportionately impacted. Bell Road, which District 2 and District 3 share across down towards I-17. I just, there's so many cleanups we're sending out, and Gina, again, you know. So I personally think this budget, well-intentioned, I think Jeff and his staff did their always great job. I would have personally liked to see even more focus on some of the things that you were just saying, plus police recruitment and retention. I know we've got a plan coming out here that I was briefed on this morning that I think is an excellent start. But really, what are cities? It's transportation, police, you can throw in libraries and parks and so forth. But here's another one. I was shocked to hear, you know, people have talked about, they've noticed a decline in the cleanliness of our streets and the sides of the streets. We do, correct me if I'm wrong, 4 cleanups a year for each of the 5,000 miles, but I've been told we actually have more vacancies in those staffers who do that kind of work than we have people actually doing the work. So that's something we should also focus on, because again, that's the kind of thing, it gets dirty on the streets, you get people camped out at your bus stop, and the next thing you know, things have kind of gone haywire, and homeowners, the taxpayers who are funding our operation, don't feel comfortable in their own neighborhood. I'm watching it happen as I go around and knock on doors, and that's not acceptable. So, you know, I would have liked to have seen, I've got the page in front of me, pages in front of me, I won't belabor it, because I talked about it last time, the comments from the public and how they matched up from what I hear knocking on doors. They're fairly congruent, but I think sometimes we deviate into other and new and currently hot topic areas, and we lose a little bit of our core focus, which are, I think, a couple of the things that I've mentioned. So I appreciate it's definitely moving in the right direction. I just wish, frankly, we were moving even more in the right direction. So I thank you for the effort and everything. My vote is not a reflection on any of the staff or any of the work that's been done, but I would like a little more focus on some of the things that I hear about all the time as I'm out and about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Vice Mayor.
I wanted to talk about the business side of what is happening with encampments and homelessness. On the business side, I am hearing, particularly on the canals, some of the businesses being, their operations being damaged or destroyed, a lot of urine around their areas. And so I'm wondering if we need to look at that, maybe not this year, but very strategically look at that for next year in that element, because I know it's happening. It's happening all over 27th Avenue, 19th Avenue, a lot of our hot spots, 51st Avenue. We have a lot of hot spots now throughout our city. And I feel like we have to do a very collective, collaborative way of how we're going to move forward in this space. We put a lot of money towards it within the community and within the business community. And understanding the dynamics that's happening across our country, that people are getting priced out of California, and people are getting priced out of different areas of housing, and so they're migrating. What they have is their car, and so they're migrating to where they can go. And I think we're probably one of the transitional states that is witnessing or feeling that piece. And I'm not sure what the solution is. I'm not even really sure what the best practices are in this space, because it's just large. And I know we're doing a MAG regional plan and everything, but I think we're in crisis and we have to move faster than we normally do in government. And so those are just my comments, but I think you guys are trying, staff and everybody is trying to do the best that they can. But constituent-wise and in media-wise, they're not hearing it anymore, and they're not being patient. So at the end of the day, we have to come up with a solution. So thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ansari.
Yes.
DeCiccio. Garcia,
Yes.
Guardado,
Yes.
O'Brien, Stark,
Yes.
Waring,
No.
Pastor,
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Passes 6-1.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for their work on the budget. We will continue to have budget items as we complete our state-mandated process, but that is all of today's business. We are adjourned.
And instead of installing these expensive oil water separators, they can cost upwards of $100,000 to $250,000. We built